I got this feeling inside my bones. It goes electric wavy when I turn it on. Off from my city, off from my home. We're flying up no ceiling when we in our zone. I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul.
I am here in the Klein-Weides Library to talk to you about book levels. I know sometimes it may get a little confusing when your child comes home talking about the level of the book that they have to read, and so you may be wondering what those levels mean and where they come from. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today and some ways that you can help your child to find a good fit book so that they can read independently and grow as a reader.
Think you can try it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you try it, okay?
Let's just take a look at some numbers. If a child reads a minute a day, in a year they'll read about 8,000 words. Okay? If a child reads 5 minutes a day, over the course of a year they'll read 282,000 words. A child that reads 20 minutes per day will read 1.8 million words in a year. Wow! Can you think about the impact that much reading could have on a child's reading level? Their vocabulary would explode. And studies also show that students who read about this amount score typically in about the 90th percentile on standardized tests. So 20 minutes is not a magic number. It's just a good amount of time that a child can engage with reading a book independently without a lot of interruption and without getting bored with it. So it's a really good kind of a good goal to shoot for, is about 20 minutes a day. The way those levels are determined, it's not like we just kind of make a guess at or a stab at about this is about a second grade book or that one looks like a first grader would enjoy it. It's actually a little bit complicated. There's something called a readability formula that takes a mathematical calculation based on the number of words in a sentence as well as the number of letters or syllables per word. And they do this mathematical calculation, and you can find a lot of those readability formulas online if you Google it, if you're interested in that. But that's how the reading levels are determined. So AR, which your students come home talking about getting their AR books in the library, the Accelerated Reader Program actually uses a formula called ATOS, and it takes into account the most important predictors of text complexity: average sentence length, average word length, and word difficulty level. That determines the readability of a text. Then we try to fit that book with an independent reading level of a student so that they can have success with that book and not become frustrated. Okay, so independent reading level. This is usually pretty easy for a student. They can read that with 95% accuracy. This is where kids can be independent. They need to be reading in this independent reading level because they don't need a lot of help from you. They really make big gains when they spend time reading independently. Instructional reading level is a little more challenging. This is where a lot of our content is taught in the classroom because they're learning new vocabulary. 90% word accuracy at that instructional level. Frustration level is actually a little bit difficult for the student to read independently. This is where they have less than 90% word accuracy. It would be a good idea to read those books out loud to a child. It doesn't mean that the child can't understand something at their frustration level. It just means it's going to be a little bit too much of a challenge for them to tackle independently and really understand and comprehend the text. It's important for students to really spend a lot of time at that independent reading level. Now, in the old days, when I first started teaching about 27 years ago, I had to do reading inventories with students to determine that level. Now we have a lot of help from AR, the Accelerated Reader Program, and it makes our job a little bit more efficient because we can have the students take the STAR screening assessment, and that determines their independent reading level for us. They test 3 times a year so that we can move them along, and hopefully we're seeing progress and we're seeing kids reaching their goals. But the AR program, the STAR reading assessment, gives them what they call the zone of proximal development. This means this is where a kid's going to get a lot of good use of their time. If a child is reading in that zone, they're maximizing the time that they're spending reading. choice is what really, really makes a big difference in children wanting to read more. So we never want that zone of proximal development or that reading level to become a rigid requirement that students have to follow. We just want it to be a guide for them. So saying that a child has a frustration level at a certain number doesn't mean that they can't read those books. It just gives you some information so that you know they're going to need some assistance. If a child is constantly reading books that are a little bit too easy, they're not going to grow quite as much. So we encourage them to try to move into that independent reading level. So if your child is reading chapter books but wants to read a picture book, that's fine. That's just going to be their free choice book that they are choosing to read. And they do know, we talk a lot about finding a good fit book at school. So just be thinking about that and encouraging them to try to find some books that are in their independent reading level so that they can grow. All right, I pick a book. This is something that we teach them at school, is how to choose a good fit book. First of all, the purpose needs to fit what they're trying to do. If a teacher wants them to learn something about a particular subject, that's the purpose. It may just be for entertainment, enjoyment. Is the child interested in the book? If they're not interested in it, they're not really going to finish it. Comprehend it. Can they comprehend it? This is why that independent reading level is important. Sometimes we can challenge a child so much that they can't understand the book, can't comprehend it. Do they know the words? Can they do it independently? So this is called iPick. The kids learn how to choose a good fit book when they come to the library, and they can do this even if they're not at the library. They're at a bookstore or at a public library. One of the ways you can do this, if you don't know the levels of the books and the kids just want to look at the book and try to choose one, is something called the 5-finger rule. Have the child read a page of the book to you, and they start counting anytime they miss a word. So if they miss a word, they hold up a finger. They miss another word, they hold up a finger. If they get to 5 fingers on one page, that's probably too hard. Okay, that's just a good rule of thumb. That's probably going to be one that you need to read to them, or they need to put back for a later time. If a child misses 0 to 1, might be a little too easy. If they miss 1 or 2 words, that's a really good fit. If it's 3 or 4, they could try it. They may need a little bit of assistance. So this is a good way of doing a kind of a readability check without having to do a mathematical formula. Okay, if you want to kind of check out some titles, maybe you're in a bookstore or something like that, you want to see if it's an AR book, if it's something that they can take a test on, you want to see the reading level of those AR books, there's a website called arbookfind.com. You can type in the book's title and you can find out if it's an AR book and what level it is. There's also an app that's a Scholastic Book Fair app that apparently you can use your barcode scanner and you can find the book and see if it is an AR book. So those are some things that you could do if you're out and about and you just want to know if this book is a good fit for your child. We hope you enjoyed our video about reading book levels. I hope that you'll find some great fit books for you and your family to enjoy together. Listen to some books on tape in the car if you're on a road trip. Find some books to read at bedtime. But whatever you do, just find some books that you like to read and make it a family affair. Thank you so much for listening.
I got that sunshine in my pocket, got that good soul in my feet.